Well, it's the first
All right. Thank you,
week
Simon.
of LCS Summer
Oh,
Split.
there it is.
I'm joined
Sorry.
right now by Loss, and I'm starting this interview as they adjust the board behind them because I cannot wait to talk to them any longer about that game. Of course, this coverage is brought to you by Alienware. So, Loss, take me through those final moments of the match because they were quite fun against Evil Geniuses just now.
Um, First it was kind of communication about like the fight on mid as we're pushing top because we're playing two lanes on mid and top. And then after the fight, I'm just like, I'm pushing top, guys. I'm pushing top. And then Speaker and Sora are just commenting like the base timers they can stop. You know who's spacing, who's not, who they're canceling, and stuff like that. So I mean, as I'm pushing top, I'm just like looking at their base explode, and I watch the mini map, and I'm like seeing everyone getting canceled, and they're saying it. And I'm like, oh no, they're not gonna lose like this, right?
You felt sympathetic for them? You're like, oh, you weren't like, oh my god, here I go. You're like, oh, this is going to be such the silliest win ever.
Well, I don't think it kicked in until I'm like hitting the first Nexus turret. When I was on the inhib, I was just like, okay, there's a high chance I'm just gonna base after the top inhib. But when they said I canceled Kennen, I was like, I mean, I wasn't even looking down there. I was just looking at the minimap and hearing the comms. And I was like, oh, lol, just that blows, bro. Yeah, those are the kind of thoughts going through my head as I'm hitting their Nexus turrets.
Very good. Well, okay. So, does that win feel good? I mean, I guess every win feels good, but I'm curious if that one in particular feels good because obviously it's very goofy.
Well, I mean, towards the end, it feels always. Winning always feels good, right? But for the most part, it was a pretty close game. You know, throughout early game and mid game, we lost first round, we lost first drag, and I feel like we actually didn't play, superbly, as good as we know we can play. So I wouldn't say that was like a win we're super proud of. And just personally, I don't think I played really amazing either this game. So I think there's a lot to look at and a lot to do better for tomorrow's match and for following games.
Well, if we can separate from the game just now, I'd love to kind of know if you can take me through what did happen during the off season for you guys and how much time did you guys take as a break and what were you really looking to hone in on and work on as you got ready for summer?
Oh, I think for the most part, we were kind of just taking a break, like really, right? I think other teams got maybe 6 or 7 weeks almost, whereas for us, we got knocked out in semis. So we had a little less time, maybe a little under 5 weeks or a little over 4. So for the most part, we're taking a break, whereas other teams were maybe practicing for like, I don't know, weeks before we even started. So I think for us, we're kind of just just kind of mentally resetting as much as we could heading into the next split because this is going to be a super long split. 10 weeks, triple round robin into playoffs, and then potentially worlds, right? So got to make sure we're ready for the super long season that's coming up.
Yeah. Is there any specific strategy you guys are looking to employ for how to approach this split? Because I don't know if because there are so many games, there's maybe the chance that you guys can okay, we can experiment more, and it feels like we're seeing that with certain teams that are perhaps more willing to bench some players than perhaps we'd maybe see them in a different year. So I'm kind of curious, do you guys view like the beginning of summer as a chance to really try different stuff and figure things out and then start making sure that you lock in the spot, especially because you carry over your record from spring, right? It feels like the stakes for some of these games might be a little lower.
I don't think we're really treating it like that. For the most part, we're kind of working on our issues that were present last split and kind of going through it methodically, less so than seeing. I feel like the LCS matches are more just a test for how well you've studied throughout the week, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like just to put it in an analogy. So it's not that there's less stakes. It's more that it's kind of just a reflection of how fast we're improving or how well we're working on our problems. Because in the end, all that really matters is how you perform in playoffs. Because that's what's going to bring you to worlds or not. So all that time in between is going to be obviously the most crucial for whether or not you're going to show up in playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it pretty crazy getting back into the swing of things with such a so many patches have come, right? Because even playoffs was on a pretty slow patch compared to the rest of the world. You not only that, but then obviously a ton of stuff released. Then you have Viego turning back on and all this stuff, multiple champions in the game. So does it feel wildly different? Has it been tough to kind of catch up?
Somewhat, but I think for us, we play a lot of SoloQ. So, kind of seeing what's really broken and what's not shouldn't be too much of a problem. I feel like as a pro player, you kind of just get used to like all the really, really quick changes of the metas and, trying to figure out what's most broken on your patch. I think, for the most part, we're pretty used to it and just adapting to it.
Okay. How much can you tell from SoloQ? Because obviously it's a very different environment than best of ones in the LCS.
I mean, yeah, some games in SoloQ, it really is you versus your mental, like, oh my gosh, some SoloQ games are oof. And when people say League brings out the worst in you, it's kind of true when you play SoloQ. Like, some games are just so hard to deal with, whether you're in bronze, silver, diamond, challenger, it doesn't matter, right? Like, if you really, really want to win and someone's just griefing your game, it's hard for your mental. But over like 10 games or over 20 games throughout the league, you can kind of get a better game of
But
what's really broken, what looks really strong.
And is that even the case for champions though? Because obviously certain champions will succeed better in a team environment than in like a solo queue environment, right? So I guess that's part of my question too. Is like, if you guys are grinding solo queue, are you really confident that like something that feels broken in solo queue, you're going to be able to port into, I don't know, scrims, I guess, or is scrims the environment in which you're testing a lot of that stuff from solo queue these days?
You're right in that sense. There's a pretty big difference between solo queue performance and scrim performance, but there's still some use in testing it in solo queue first, and then at least you can test it in scrim practice before the week starts. So you can kind of gauge whether or not it's better in a team environment or better it kind of just like smashes solo queue. I think a good example would be like Diana. Diana probably runs solo queue, you farm really quickly, you duel really well, and if you get snowballing, you're just killing everything so fast. All objective, all camps, all captains. Yeah. But then you go into like a 0-0 game in scrim practice and the game looks completely different. So, stuff like that. You kind of need to have it ready before or at the very beginning of your practice starting into the league.
So moving away a little bit from you guys getting ready for summer, I'm kind of curious what you thought of playing against Danny in that last game.
I think Danny's been doing pretty well. I think the way he played in his amateur/academy or proving grounds matches, I'm pretty excited to see how he turns out. Like, the way he plays is super explosive, and playing against him today, he obviously played pretty well. He got a pretty large CS lead in the early game, and props to him for that. So good luck to him throughout the rest of the season.
Do you think? I'm kind of curious. How do you think he compares to some of the other ADs? Because I know we've got pretty good ADs in North America, but there's kind of always this ongoing conversation about how perhaps North America plays really passive. It feels like at MSI we saw a lot of players who obviously would go to win lane and be very dominant. I don't know if you feel like there's an issue with that in the bot lane in North America. I don't know if Danny feels like some sort of correction to it, but I'm kind of curious.
Probably too soon to tell. Don't like riding off or running on people so early in the split. So,
but do you think there's a lot of passivity in bot lane in North America?
I think there's a lot of passivity in not just bot lane, just NA in general. Probably,
right.
I think everyone's kind of seen that and felt that throughout the years. I think teams aren't ignorant to it. It's kind of just there. And of course, the 60 ping in SoloQ makes it so like I think a lot of the players or even upcoming players, they don't know how like the highest level of play you can reach or limit you can or edge you can kind of skirt around because you're playing on 60 ping, right? You're not playing on 8 ping or 9 ping in Korea. And I think if you ask any pro player, they will tell you the difference between like playing in Korea on 9 ping or I don't know whichever server they're from versus playing on 50 or 60 ping. It's a big difference.
I was going to ask about that too because I know TSM has started to set up some tourney realm solo queue type stuff or customs. What have you had a chance to participate in it? Does that stuff feel very useful for you?
I played once or twice in them. I think so far they've been going decently. Probably not amazing, but not poor either. I think it probably just depends on how willing a bunch of pro players are to join the in-houses, because that's how it's always going to be, because what's the point of not playing? I mean, I guess you have better ping, right? But everyone needs to be down to play in-houses for it to be worth it.
Is that an issue that you guys are finding? There's just not a lot of people who are interested in those in-houses?
I think it's just hard to some players want to take a break, some players want to grind the whole time. Maybe some players just prefer playing SoloQ over needing to calm or just be in like a social environment for 15 hours a day, which is completely understandable.
Yeah.
So I think for any in-house system, you just need like a bunch of pro players at the same time, and that's just not an easy thing to have for most in-house systems.
Finally, this is the first time I know you played at the event during the playoffs, but this is the first time that you've had a chance to be on stage with the team in the LCS studio this year. So what has that experience been like? Does it feel way nicer than being at home? Being at the office? Do you miss the office at all? I don't know what you think of this environment compared to otherwise.
Honestly, it feels amazing to be back on stage. It's pretty dope. It feels so much more real. I think that's the only real thing I can say. It's just more real. You feel like you're competing. You're like in a different space than when you're practicing. And when you win or when you lose, it just impacts you more just as a person, and you can see it in your teammates too. So I think it's pretty nice to be back, and thank God.
Do you think you're playing differently?
Probably not. I think I'm definitely far less nervous than I was like on Echo Fox my first year, like my first time playing on LCS and stuff like that. But always got a little bit of stage nerves, and I think it's good.
Yeah. Was there anything you want to say to any of the fans out there?
Honestly, it does get pretty old, I guess, but all you can really say is like there's so many fans that send supportive messages and say super nice things. There are also so many fans that say like super hurtful things, super sad things. But that's just part of being on TSM. So all I can really do is show my appreciation for those who do support us and keep us pushing on, because you are playing like 89, 90 hours a week of League of Legends, and that's not too easy. Maybe some people think, oh, it's being a pro player is so easy, bro. You just wake up, play video games, and go to sleep. So easy, But sometimes it's pretty tough for some players. So, thank you so much to the fans that support us, throughout the season. Maybe if you even only during playoffs or something, you guys watch us and you guys send some supportive messages. It means a lot.
Very good. Well, hey, thank you so much, Alas, for the interview. I really do appreciate it. Congratulations on the win today. Even if perhaps you didn't feel like you played the best, it was really fun to well, it was interesting to see you march in and finish the game for sure. Anyway, thanks again for the interview. Everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things LCS right here on my YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, summer split. You know what that means? It's summer. And you might be thinking to yourself, time to go outside and enjoy the sun, enjoy the wilderness, go climb a mountain. No, that stuff is dangerous. You know what's safe? Alienware computers and playing games on them, including, by the way, their new X Series line of notebooks, which you can go check out at alienware.com/Travis. There's a link in the description below. Be safe. Play video games. It's the way to live. That's how I live. And I'm still alive, so clearly it's working.